Hi all, and welcome to episode 20 of Professional Perspectives of What Cause Inspires You. I'm your host, Alisha Gupta, and today I have with me Janani. What Cause Inspires You is a podcast founded for students ages 13 to 21 to be able to share the service they're doing in their communities. We recently launched our Professional Perspective series in order for experts in their field to give insight to our youth about how to make a stronger impact and accelerate social justice movements. Janani is a writer, content creator, and mental health advocate. She started on social media to tell her story about healing and understanding the world from a personal perspective. She did not want any other person to go through college the way she did, and strongly believes that the more we openly communicate, the more we can understand each other as time progresses. Hopefully, every conflict will subside by then. The podcast series will be available on Spotify and YouTube under Humanity Rising Voices. And Janani, it's great to be able to speak with you today.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So first, mental health. What drew you to that topic?
So I've always wanted to be on social media. I was one of those 12-year-olds, or I guess 13-year-olds, who just genuinely loved Tumblr. I loved YouTube. I loved Tumblr. That was when like Elle Fowler, all the beauty gurus started. And then I got onto Tumblr, got onto Instagram. I was always one of those like first people to end up using the app and really loving it. Obviously, when school comes over, work comes over, you're pressured to get an internship. I never really took it seriously until actually quarantine hit. And I felt this inclination to just get on social media, but I didn't want to talk about beauty and fashion. Genuinely, I didn't have anything to say. And I knew that I needed to talk because at the end of the day, like you mentioned, I am a writer. And so mental health is a very broad subject. I think a lot of different people who claim to be mental health advocates talk about many different aspects. And for me, one of the biggest things that has propelled me to be who I am today is storytelling. So, I really had a lot of trauma in a very short amount of time. College was a very difficult situation for me to be in, mentally, physically. And I was in a lot of really tough situations from when I can even remember. I think I was 6 years old when a lot of that trauma kind of set in. And I felt like in the Indian community, especially, it's really hard to talk about these subjects with our parents. It's really hard to talk about things with our friends. Like a lot of people are just trying to have not deep conversations anymore. And I didn't feel like I was at home anywhere. Like when I went to college, and it's really tough when you're in college. I know the situation different, but when I was in college, it was, we would go to class with the same people, go back home, and you had to be with a roommate that you didn't necessarily get along with. There was no sense of home. And I had to really find that sense of home within myself. And that was something that I couldn't figure out until I left. And I think that journey of truly understanding what it meant to be alone, not lonely, through mental health struggles has allowed me to open up into a brand new world. I see the world in a much different light now. And I guess I wanted to talk about everything that I've been through in a very third-party perspective, help people know that not only are they not alone, but there is a way out. And this, addiction to being sad and a lot of like depressive thoughts that we can kind of accumulate over time doesn't have to be your story. So that's kind of what made me want to talk about mental health, because I never wanted to come on there, never wanted to go on social media and advise anybody, because I have no idea what anyone is going through. I just wanted to tell story and hopefully help at least one person, even if that one person was me.
That's awesome. And that's a really impactful story, just to see that you were able to convert your own experiences into a method of making sure that even if no one's helped, that they're aware that someone's went through it and lived through it and came out the other end of it. So that's super powerful. You did mention South Asian communities and how that's not super responsive to the idea of mental health, and it actually reminded me of a story. A while ago, I interviewed a mental health professional who was South Asian, and she simply said that she sees a lot of patients who are South Asian students, and they're practically begging their parents to be able to get them to a psychiatrist or therapist, and it's just a conversation that the parent doesn't want to have. So I guess this kind of relates to the Indian standard, but also you. How was your journey in your South Asian community in opening up about the mental health, and how did that lead to the creation of the Indian standard?
Lots of questions. I think with any professional, it's funny that you asked me this today. I was thinking about it a lot today. When I was 15, I had a lot of, I guess we can put like a trigger warning. I had a lot of self-harm problems. I tried to commit suicide a few times, and I was just a very depressed kid. And I was diagnosed with depression when I was 12. So when I turned 15, it was 3 years of trauma that I didn't know was happening. And so I turned 15 and I was doing my, weekly check-in because I was also anorexic. I was doing my weekly check-in weigh-in with my mom, and she notices like scars on my back. And long story short, she gets me into a therapist. So I go to the therapist. I'm like 15, 16 years old. And she's this amazing Indian American woman, right? And I like, in hindsight, perfect therapist for me. So I go into the therapy session, and I'm actually like, at 15, I'm surprised at myself that I was so receptive towards this session. And I was talking about what I was thinking about why I wanted to die, why I was going through all these things. Like, I was being very open towards my therapist. And my mom was sitting there right next to me, and she was just like in shock as to what my thought process looked like. Because at 15, like that's a lot for a mother to hear that her daughter wants to die. So we left the session, and my mom was like, "You are never going back there ever again." And she forced me out. Like, I was never in therapy ever again. And at that impressionable age, you kind of take on a lot of your mother's opinions. And so, not that my parents are terrible, my mom is a doctor, then my parents aren't bad people, but it's just more about the concept of mental health is a Western term. And so when you ask immigrant parents to understand, and you do it by the way that you're saying that you want to die, oftentimes you're kind of standing in the back corner expecting someone to kind of drag you out when they don't even understand that they need to drag you out. And so with that, it was a lot of like back and forth fighting, trying to get my mom to see like that I wanted to go to therapy. And now, because my parents pulled me out, I didn't really have an option. And so I guess with the Indian Standard, I genuinely just wanted this magazine to stand through time, meaning anyone who was super, super young, who just liked the pictures, who like didn't understand, didn't know how to read, didn't know how to comprehend what was on the page, they just like to flip through, to adults who with children. I wanted everyone to understand that everybody goes through this, which is why I have people of different, ages, genders, sexuality, because to me, it's like, as long as you feel represented somehow in at least one issue of like, in terms of like one magazine, I feel like everyone should be able to pick up every issue and feel like they can connect with at least somebody. And I think that that's really powerful, because if I had an example growing up to be like, hey, this person's going through this too, they went through therapy and look at what happened to them. They got out and they started their own company. Like, that would be great, And I think that if I had that example growing up, then maybe someone else could have that too, because I don't think that the problem is gone. In terms of addressing your brown community question, when I got on social media, since I did it, technically, like, I guess I started in May. I had 1,000 followers in May, and I didn't have a TikTok account at all. And now things have grown on both TikTok and Instagram because I've talked about mental health, not because of any other reason. I haven't really like diverged from that. So people didn't like it. I started in, I guess, now May. So we got kicked out of school because of COVID back in March. And I got a lot of, who does she think she is? What makes her think that she can talk about this? Or why did she like just flip a switch, right? She got out of college and now automatically she's a mental health advocate. Where did this come from? And a lot of people didn't really understand that this is something that I've been always cognizant of. I was always been like the therapist friend or the advice friend. Like, I've always been this person. I just never put it into such words. And I got I still get a lot of hate. I get a lot of like, who do you think you are? You think you're hot shit, that kind of thing. And I'm like, at the end of the day, I am talking about something that is really personal to me. So I'm just gonna keep doing that. If people have like a real constructive problem with it, then I would love to address it. But a lot of it is hate, and it also comes down to the fact that I'm not posting pictures for the sake of getting clout. I'm posting pictures for the sake of hopefully people hearing me, and I think that people have a problem with that. So there's a lot there, a lot to unpack there, but it all made me even more confident to create the magazine.
That's beautiful. And I think I can definitely resonate with that feeling because I came out of a cyberbullying issue in high school. And so my almost sophomore to senior years of high school was like a lot of my experience was kind of shadowed by cyberbullying. And so coming out of that, I started the podcast. And my very first episode was about cyberbullying. And I was met with the same exact comments as you. They were like, oh, who does she think she is? Like, she didn't even go through that bad of cyberbullying. Like, they're just hate comments. Everyone gets them. But no one really knows how it affects you unless it's you. And so I think that just goes to show that you can overcome it, and using your platform for something that you're truly passionate about is always the way to go. I will ask you though, for me, social media is a very scary platform because of the cyberbullying instances. And so it takes a lot to be vulnerable on social media, but it seems for you that it's been a really great way to share your story and been a voice for you. So what are your takes on, I guess, just social media as a platform of influencing? And conjunct with that, what are you plans to do with your social media accounts about the Indian Standard and your company?
That's a great question. I think with vulnerability. So I like to think that I have a few pillars with the Indian Standard and with Janani LLC is my LLC. The Indian Standard is the subsidiary of that. And so when you think about pillars, I think vulnerability, creativity, a lot of that mind, body, and soul, wellness, spirituality, kind of all flows into Janani. If I am sitting here promoting that vulnerability, honesty, feeling out your feelings, being true in your own space, I have to exemplify that. I can't sit here and tell people to be vulnerable with their feelings and then post a picture about golden hour. Like I have to sit here and I need to talk about what I'm uncomfortable talking about. If I want change, then I need to lead by example. And it's not always easy. Like I cannot sit here and tell you that I want to take an Instagram picture every single day. I do not. There are most days that I would rather, like, even if I have my makeup done, even if I have it has nothing to do with my self-image. It's just taking a picture. It's just a lot of work. And that's why I utilize stories so much. But in my TikTok account, my TikTok account is my favorite thing to post on just because it's so quick.
Let's talk about priorities today. So when you wake up in the morning, you have a list of things that you desire to do, right? And in general, when we go through life, we have times when we say oh, I need to prioritize my family right now. I need to prioritize my health right now, or my career right now, or my relationships right now. I challenge that every single day has a different set of priorities.
Instagram is definitely the most fruitful in my opinion, but being vulnerable on social media is very, very difficult, but it's something that I just had to bite the bullet on, and kind of just do it because I knew that I wanted other people to do it. And that feeds into the Indian Standard and Janani in terms of future goals, because I want this company to grow into a space that has multiple different avenues. We all have our own 10-year plans and everything. But I would love to create a space that, when you hear the name or when you walk into the space, you genuinely feel like you're heard. And you walk away from the experience of my company knowing that you have a piece of someone's story. You have a piece of someone's really vulnerable moments, knowing, that we're all connected. Because when you sit here and you read the stories in my magazine, I hope you feel like, wow, this person really shared their mental health experience. This person was about to die, came out of it, and wrote down their story. And I'm not even talking about me. There's just the people in the magazine who are so vulnerable and so brave for doing so, that I want the people reading it feeling like, wow, maybe I can do that too. I'm going through something and I would love to talk about it. And I hope it inspires conversation. So I just want the world to feel like we're all connected and we all have an impact on each other. It's just the domino butterfly effect. And, these are all things that matter. And I think that sometimes we don't really take it into account how much our word can travel.
Yeah, 100%. And I definitely want to pick up that February edition of the magazine.
Thank you.
Super excited. I saw you post about that, so I'm very excited for that edition. I have this perception of the world that every person that you encounter, whether it's a story that you read, a podcast you heard, or even someone you met in the grocery store, plays a part in your story and you play a part in their story. And I think with that, when you read someone's story, that's an impact.
Mhm.
How can we take it one step further and actually be vulnerable and share our mental health with more people so we can have more impact on people's lives?
The first step is sharing it with yourself. As cheesy as it sounds, we're not always comfortable with all the things that we've done, good and bad. We all have done things that are wrong. We've all done really good things too. For me, a lot of my self-improvement, self-growth is writing down the things that I have done incorrectly in my life. Who are the people that I've hurt? And it could be myself, it could be my parents, it could be the way that I've spoken this argument. We've all made those mistakes, right? They don't have to be like grandiose errors that we've made, but just like little things, like when did I speak out of turn? When did I hurt someone's feelings? Did I do this? Did I do that? Sometimes I will, most nights actually, I write down all the things that I've done wrong, all the good things that I've done. And that helps kind of understand your sense of self or your ego. The moment that you can put your ego aside and let your intuition carry you, that's when you can be a lot more vulnerable. And I think with vulnerability, it's really understanding yourself first before you go out and heal someone else. Because if you got to put your oxygen mask on before you go and help somebody else. And oftentimes when we tell our mental health story, we're doing it because, oh, I really want this one person to hear it and I want someone to feel it. A lot of times I post on social media because I want to share it. I want to put those words out there. I want to stay accountable that, I'm going through something and I want to look back on it and be like, I got through it. I'm not going through it anymore. It's not about necessarily changing the world, because we ourselves, the moment we change ourselves, we are changing the world. And sometimes it does take that microcosm to make a huge rippling effect.
When we are vulnerable, though, we're sharing parts of our lives out there to social media. And we mentioned this before, but that can be a very scary task and can be met with a lot of hate comments and just people's opinions of you that were unasked for or uncalled for. Have you seen that recently more with the brown community? Or since, mental health is a pretty taboo topic in the brown community, do you think that most of these unasked for comments are coming from that specific community, or is it just in general?
Yeah, it's definitely from that community. Yeah, I wish we knew each other for longer. I have always had a problem with the brown community. I have always been the person that is not, I don't know. There's a lot of gossip in general. And I think that for me, I was always kind of, not to like victimize anything, but I felt like sometimes I was painted out to be the bad guy. And a lot of people had a lot of things to say about me in high school. It started in middle school, to be honest, middle school to high school, then to college. And college was where it was the worst, because it was like 4 years of you're living there, you go to school there, you work there, everything's there. I had relationships, like it was a tough time. And I think now, like, when you can like feel like the nazar, I don't know how else to say it, but you can feel like the evil eye.
I have the evil eye thing here.
Yes.
Because I've been through those exact.
You know what I mean? Like you just feel the gossip. And I sit sometimes, I'm like, I'm meditating or I'm doing whatever, I'm praying, whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, I can feel people talking about me. And it's not even like, oh my God, they must be talking about me. It's like, I literally know what is being said. And then I get validated a week later and I'm like, oh, I knew it. And so to be honest, I have removed myself from these situations, and it's a lot of lonely nights. I can't sit here and say like it's always easy. Like I don't have the community that I wanted so badly. But when you go on social media, you kind of think like, oh, I didn't have a brown community in my real life. Maybe I can have one on social media. Maybe there's a bunch of brown creators that are going to be super supportive, and we're going to have this big influencer group of friends, and we're all going to be, no, it's the same everywhere. It's the same garbage everywhere, same politics everywhere. And the moment that I said, you know what, I'm quite frankly too old. I am 23 years old now. I've graduated college. I have a full-time job. I'm trying to build a company. I don't have time to entertain a negative opinion. And I've heard people say this before, and I never understood what that meant. It only took me to be backed against a wall to realize that the negative comments was changing the way that I perceived myself. I was looking at myself like a victim. I was consistently looking at myself like, oh my God, like poor me, and I needed to stop it. I'm done victimizing myself. I'm done putting myself in the back of the corner, and I'm going to stand up with or without you is kind of my mentality. And right now that has led me into a group of like 6 random people in my life. None of them are really connected, but that's my community. I can pick up the phone and call them whenever I want. And that's my community. I have my parents, I have my younger sister, and that's it. And it is what it is. Like, it's not fun sometimes because you want that. I've always wanted like a brown girl group of friends. Always. I can tell you do too.
We're on the same exact page.
You see these TikToks and you see these brown girls and they're so cute and they're all like, like dancing. And I'm like, how do you get that? Like, I've never been able to get that. So, it is what it is. And at the end of the day, like, we're both trying to grow something bigger than ourselves. We want it to stand past our time. And it's, I want the Indian Standard to be here regardless if I'm alive. And if I want that, then my principles have to be set in stone. And I need to represent myself, my brand, my image in every word that I speak. And if that means that I have to cut people out, if that means that people are going to cut me out, so be it. Because this isn't about me anymore. This is about my future children. This is about their future children. This is about changing the way that mental health is perceived. And I can't do that if my mental health is destroyed. So it's like a give and take, honestly.
You feel like this older sister that I needed to hear from like ages ago, because I think quarantine came to a similar realization for me. I've always wanted that big brown group, and then every time I'm in it never works out, and I beat myself up about it because I kept thinking it was me. I kept thinking that I was the reason why it wasn't working out, or it was my fault, and that had to do with a lot of the cyberbullying that went on as well. So all in all, it just wasn't a good situation. And it took me a long time to be able to disconnect from everything that was negatively influencing my life and just stand on my own 2 feet and say that these are the things, these are my passions, this is what I want to do. And people who support me are the people who support me, and the people who don't will never. And
they never will. Yeah, they're not meant to,
That brings me to kind of my last question. A mix between social media, brown communities, and I guess being a female creator as well. But do you see that every time that you rise up, you lose more and more people? And if so, how can we prevent that? And how can we actually go by what everyone pretends to say, like female supporting females or creators supporting creators? How can we actually live by that terminology versus a fake pretense of it?
It's always girls supporting girls when the girl is more influential than you. When I sit here and I post on social media or I interact with other people, if I am paying attention to how many followers that person has, I'm not a nice person, honestly. I'm just going to say that because there's so many people who, like I mentioned, I had 1,000 followers in May, And then now I have 26,000. So in less than in less than a year, things have kind of exploded for me. And on TikTok, it was the same thing. Like I had 0 went to like 77,000. That growth has manifested into different aspects of my life, in terms of personal growth, in terms of my business growth. Even starting the LLC only happened in October. Like there's a lot of things that happened. And I remember like when I had 1,000 followers, 2,000 followers, 3,000, no one even bat an eye towards me. Now all of a sudden it's, oh my God, hi Janani, how are you? Oh my God, long time no see. I'm like, you saw me yet? Like, shut up. Like, it's just, what do you mean? You know? And it's just like so many people back from college who are hitting me up being like, hey, it's been a while. And I'm like, yeah, it has. And it's just like, you know, and I think it's always girls supporting girls if you can like get something out of her. And for me, I can't live by that. I have supported so many people regardless of their account because I don't know how many followers they have. I look at a page and I'm like, damn, they have some good content. I'm attracted to their feed. I'm attracted to the person. The vibe is right. I'm going to follow them or I'm going to support them. I'm going to repost them. Like I repost so many accounts all the time because I genuinely just with their content. Like it has nothing to do with, you know, how many followers that person has or what I can get out of it. And another thing is like, just because you show love to someone doesn't mean that they're going to show it back to you in the same way. So if you repost a whole bunch of people's stuff and no one reposts you, it doesn't mean that they don't like your content. Also, it just means they don't show their love.
Don't expect to be reposted, and don't only do it if you're expecting to be reposted.
Mm-hmm. And I had challenged with that, you know, like in the beginning, like I saw a bunch of people who would always repost stuff. So I was like, okay, so the way that you get more like, I guess, interaction and engagement is by getting reposted. Such a wrong mentality. You know, you can't go into the game thinking that you're going to make money. You got to go into the game because you're passionate about it. And the game is ups and downs, it's roller coasters, and you're not going to gain. There's nothing linear about starting a business. Or starting a movement, you know, it comes with collision. It comes with a lot of self-growth, and self-growth. We don't even like ourselves some days. Why would someone else? Yeah. You know, there's so many days that we are not consistent with ourselves. Like, do I work out every single day? Can I say that with good conscience? No. Do I feed myself properly every single day? I don't even take care of the basic necessities that I need. Why the hell would someone else repost me? That's the least of my concerns.
Yeah.
You know? Just be consistent with yourself and you'll notice that the energy will follow.
That was beautiful advice to end on, and one I needed to hear personally, because as someone on social media, just on, not even trying to grow, but literally just viewing social media, I think we get so caught up with the follower count, the like count, you know, even if I'm trying to grow a business, it's always how many people are attracted to it, not are my passions and foundations straight? Are they solid enough that I can build something that's scalable beyond just myself, which is, I think, something that we touched on perfectly today. So thank you so much, Janani.
Of course. This was so much fun for me. So thank you for having me. I'm stuttering. It's been a long day. Thank you.
You can contact Janani at contact@byjanani.com or DM her on @byjanani everywhere, or visit byjanani.com. All of these will be on the links on the YouTube page and the Spotify page as well. Be sure to also follow our Instagram and Facebook pages to be updated on our scholarship opportunities, future podcasts, and events. That's @humanity.rising and @whatcauseinspires And sign up for our weekly email newsletter at www.humanityrising.org. That's all we have for today, but be sure to look out for more episodes of professional perspectives of what cause inspires you. I'm your host, Alisha Gupta, and I hope you all continue changing the world.